Radio Bristol.
The time now, 26 minutes to 1, and I welcome into the studio the local writer, Nicola Martin. Nicola, thank you for coming in.
Hello, I'm delighted to be here.
Well, who wouldn't be? And it's an exciting time for you because your debut book, which I have in my hands, called Dead Ringer, is actually published officially tomorrow, isn't it?
Yes, it's out in ebook, paperback and audiobook.
So this could potentially be the most exciting week of your life.
Indeed.
So far.
So far.
Thank you for coming in. Now, Dead Ringers has the tagline, "A pair of doppelgangers, a pack of lies." And it's a psychological thriller set, I think, in the near future, we call it. And we'll talk about that in a moment, but let's find out a little bit about you. You live in Bristol, don't you?
Yes, I do. I live in the centre of Bristol.
Lovely part of the world. You're a cat lover, I see.
Absolutely, yes.
Do you have a cat yourself?
I don't, because I live in a very small flat.
But the dream is, if you make money from your writing, eventually you'll have many cats.
Yes, I mean, for every million, maybe I'll buy a cat.
Yeah, well, you could even open a sanctuary. The sky's the limit when you've got the cash. You like ice skating as well. It's nice. Have you ever done any ice skating yourself?
Yes, I actually loved the rink in Bristol before it closed down.
Oh,
so
yes.
I'm on tenterhooks for them to open a new ice rink.
Do you ever watch the TV show where they dance on ice, the celebrities?
Yes, yeah, I like it.
Don't you feel there's a lot of jeopardy there, though? They could break an ankle.
Yeah, well, we love Jeopardy. That's why we love crime novels and why we love Dancing on Ice.
But with Dancing on Ice, you get, with respect, a slightly lower level of celebrity than you get in the jungle, because it's those that are willing to put up with that physical risk, which not everyone will do.
Yeah, I mean, ice skating is difficult.
Oh, yes. And John Cousins, of course, we should mention, fabulous, wonderful local ice skater who won an Olympic gold, and he really got a whole generation of people into ice skating. It is such a shame that the rink is closed.
Yes, I agree.
But and I can't see it getting much better, actually. What with global warming, the natural ice rinks, in Scandinavia are going to be disappearing before long.
No.
I see, looking up on you can search anything on the internet. I won't mention your jail term. You visited the Virgin Islands earlier this year.
I did.
Yeah,
It
now
was
tell me about that, because
holiday.
you went to several islands, but you were based on one of the lesser known ones, weren't you, I think?
Yeah, so I spent most of my time on an island called Virgin Gorda, which
I've never heard of that.
It's right next door to an island that you might have heard of, which is Necker Island,
that's Richard
Branson's island.
Yes.
So yeah, if you ever you want to go to Necker Island, but maybe you haven't got the invite from old Richard yet, you could go to Virgin Gorda, which is next door and just as beautiful.
Probably got more facilities.
Yes, indeed.
What was it actually like there? There's some lovely photographs that you put online. What was it like as an experience visiting it?
It was lovely. It was actually quite off the beaten path, so it didn't feel touristy.
Yeah, it took a bit of trouble to get there, didn't it?
Yes, so I took 4 planes and 3 ferries to get there.
Gosh.
Yeah, so it was worth the long journey.
Were you on your own?
Yeah, so I went on a solo adventure.
Blimey, that shows amazing pluck. I don't even like going to the Mall at Cribbs Causeway on my own. Let's talk a bit about your childhood. Where are you from originally? Where were you born?
I was born in the Midlands, but I moved to Bristol when I was 1. So I consider myself a Bristolian.
Oh, that's fair enough. Now, you studied at the University of East Anglia and also the University of California in Berkeley. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I did a study abroad for a year in Berkeley, which is across the bay from San Francisco.
That must have been an amazing experience.
It was completely different to university in the UK.
In what way?
Well, so you watch the movies and you sort of see like the frat parties and you see like the big rolling campuses. It really is actually like that.
Do they have the same drinking culture that traditionally they've had in this country, though?
Actually, they don't.
That's what
It's
I
very
thought.
much at the weekends you let loose, and then in the week, like it became a running joke that in the evenings when I would run into a friend on campus, they would always be on the way to the library, whereas in the UK they would always be on the way to the pub.
That is the difference. That's why America is a superpower and we aren't any
Maybe.
longer. What about just sort of living day in, day and out in America? That must have been a nice thing to do there.
Yes, I think it was good that I did it when I was a bit younger and didn't worry about things that I might worry about now, like guns and healthcare and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
you could just
that's true.
enjoy.
Well, you didn't have to settle down there. Now, you had a bit of trouble getting the job you wanted after graduating, didn't you? And you got a job as an office temp. I was reading that you got fired for insubordination. Is that true?
Yes, I did.
What did you do that was so appalling?
Well, it was a very boring job, and they didn't quite have enough work for me to do. And I would go and ask, sort of when I'd finished my filing, I'd be like, can I have some more work to do? And they kept they'd be like, okay, in a minute. And so I just sat and I read a book while I was waiting, and they didn't think that was appropriate.
Showed the balance. You were supposed to look busy even though you weren't.
Yes, I didn't quite get that at the age of 21.
Well, you ended up 10 years in the marketing field. You were a copywriter and a marketing manager in the low-carbon technology sphere. What does that mean? Can you give me more details?
Well, it sounds very fancy when you put it that way, but actually it meant that I wrote a lot, but I wrote for companies that were creating sort of solar photovoltaic mounting systems and low-carbon boilers that use less energy.
Did you have much knowledge of that, or were you just told what to do?
No, I just sort of jumped in and was like, well, I'm sure I can fake this.
Yeah, well, the sales are doing okay, so you must have helped the industry. Nowadays, you're a freelance writer and a graphic designer, and you've written short stories for magazines like People's Friends. In fact, there was one about ice skating, wasn't there?
Yes, write what you know and all.
Fair enough. And it must be nice to get a story published in one of those magazines. They're typically the sort of things you might see, with respect, again, in a dentist waiting room. But nonetheless, they're a nice, comforting publication, aren't they, People's Friend?
Yes, I mean, the People's Friend is what you pick up when you just want you just want to smile.
Take your mind off the apocalypse.
Exactly.
Yes. I presume you've always had a love of writing then.
Absolutely.
When you were a youngster, what were the writers that you personally enjoyed reading?
Oh, when I was a child, I loved Joan Aiken. She wrote a book called The Wolves of Willoughby Chase. That was my favourite. I loved it.
And have you always written on the side, through the years? You've written bits and bobs, then, have you?
Yes. I've basically always been working on a novel.
Well, your debut novel is called Dead Ringer. It's officially published tomorrow, a psychological suspense novel, gripping thriller with a clever theme. And the starting point is that you can download a facial recognition app, and that is very much on the money because these apps are being produced all the time, aren't they?
Yes, definitely.
And this will help you find your double, your dead ringer, your doppelganger, in effect. And we're going to talk about that in detail. man's got to do. You're listening to your local radio station. It's BBC Radio Bristol. My guest at the moment is Nicola Martin, and her debut book called Dead Ringer is just published tomorrow. I said Dead Ringers, of course, because that's the Radio 4 Impressionist game.
Don't mix it up.
No, they're completely different. That's humour. This is much more serious. And it's, as I mentioned, about an app that you can download. And I understand that the inspiration for the book, we're going back about 5 years. You stumbled across the story of a pair of twins, didn't you? Tell me about them.
Yes. So I was on Twitter, as you do, sort of like scrolling blankly, and I saw this clickbait article about this pair of twins, and they were from South Korea originally, and they were adopted at birth, and they never realized that each of them had a twin, and they grew up in different countries. And then one day, one of them got a message on Facebook saying, "I saw you on YouTube." And this woman goes and she sees a woman who looks exactly like her on YouTube. And they found out that they were twins, and they never would have found each other if it weren't for YouTube, if it weren't for Facebook. And that got me thinking about how small the internet has made the world, and how we can meet people that we never would have met otherwise through the internet, through social media, through apps. And I started thinking about doppelgangers rather than blood relative twins. So that person in the world who looks uncannily like you, and they're a stranger, but they look like you.
Well, I don't know about you personally, but several times in the past, people have said so-and-so looks the spit of you. There's always someone who looks like someone else, isn't there?
Yes, I think everyone has one of those stories where someone says, "I met someone who looked just like you the other day." Yeah. So the science is a bit dubious, but anecdotally, I think we all think that we have a doppelganger out there.
So you invented in effect this app which can recognise a person. You sort of download your image and you put in details on one thing and another, and you can see if there's anyone in the world that looks like you. So I suppose we're talking about the near future, sort of a Black Mirror future, aren't we?
Yes, definitely.
But technology is happening so fast. I mean, I can see this being created any day. It's not as if it's completely implausible, is it?
It's amazing how quickly facial recognition technology has become ubiquitous, where just a few years ago it wasn't anywhere, and now if you go to the airport you'll have facial recognition cameras. If you're at a big event,
it's used for crowd control, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Well, the story that you come up with off the back of this initial germ of an idea is about two young women called Ella and Jem, who both download the app. One of them, that's Ella, is from a deprived background in Cumbria, a little island, and she's got no job, no boyfriend, limited prospects. And then the other one is a spoilt brat from London called Jem. She's a socialite, an aspiring actress, lives in a multi-million-pound mansion. What are their reasons for getting the app in the first place, then?
Well, you'll have to read the book to find out exactly what the reasons are, because there are a lot of secrets involved. But I think we all just have this innate fascination with doppelgangers. Like, actually, there's that person over there, and they look just like me. What's their life like? How... It's sort of a glimpse into another life. So I think fundamentally the two of them are looking for something different.
Well, they meet up and they decide to swap lives for a while. We won't give any more than that because it gets very complicated. It's a great premise to start the book off with. And it's partly set, as I mentioned, in Cumbria, the little-known and isolated landscape of Walney Island in Cumbria. Now, you chose that after... You were going to be somewhere else initially, weren't you? But you decided to move to the island.
Yes, so it was always set in Cumbria because...
Your sister lives there, doesn't she?
Yes, she used to live in Cumbria, so I'd visited there a lot, and it's such a beautiful part of the world, and I think most people have been on holiday to the Lake District, and they know the best parts of Cumbria, the sort of picturesque Eden of it all. But actually there are some quite deprived parts, including this place called Walney Island, which... as the name implies, is an island off the coast of England.
Have you visited it yourself?
Yes, I have. And it's actually incredibly beautiful, incredibly atmospheric. But it's also quite a strange place in that there's part of it that's a nature reserve and, as I say, absolutely gorgeous. But then it's also a part of Barrow-in-Furness, which famously is not the most picturesque of places. And... there's part of the island that's pretty much just a housing estate. And I liked that kind of contradiction.
But it's an area where dirty deeds could take place.
Absolutely.
the other person, Jem, lives in this wonderful lifestyle in London. Are you familiar with that sort of lifestyle yourself?
Oh, I wish I was a Chelsea socialite like Jem, but no, I come from a very humble
You can just look in
background.
Hello magazine for that, can you?
Yes.
Now, the book itself is properly launched tomorrow, but you've had reviews already, rather good reviews, actually. Have you got any sort of book launch planned of any kind?
Yes, so there's going to be a launch in Foyles in Cabot Circus.
Is that open to the public?
It is,
What-
if you'd like to come along.
Is that tomorrow then, or is
Yes, it's Friday evening.
it Friday? What time?
It's 7:30.
So the official launch on Friday at 7:30. That'll be lovely. You're going to talk about the book and read a passage or something, are you?
Absolutely.
It's described in one review as an all too believable, twisty, compelling story that will leave you reeling. Yes. Well, let's hope it takes off. Now, I presume you wrote it a little while ago because it takes a while to get these things published. Have you started to work on another book, or have you decided to give up?
No, I haven't given up. I am working on my next novel, but at the moment I'm very focused on Dead Ringer. But the next one will definitely be a crime novel, more murder in the future for me.
Well, it's a compelling book and it's just out tomorrow. If people want to get hold of it, the book is called Dead Ringer. The author is Nicola Martin. Nicola has her own website, nicolamartin.com. If you want to meet Nicola, get the book signed, you can pop along to Foyles in Cabot Circus this Friday at 7:30. Thank you for coming in today. Every success.
Thank you very